Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I am Shelly with Life Creates Art, and if you are new to our channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and go ahead and hit the bell. And we are talking today about balance in your art. And of course, this is Life Creates Art. We talk about life along with art and art along with life. That is what this channel is all about. And so I welcome you and I thank you for joining us. So today is about balance, balance, balance. So before we get started though, I want to show you something that we are going to be talking about. Of course, we're going to be focusing on art. We're going to be focusing on balance in your art. But because we are going to be touching on balance in life as well, something that helps me stay balanced, my husband as well. We have our 10-year journal. It's in the link below from Amazon. And for those of you who like to journal or maybe don't like to journal really long journals every day, which is me, this is something that we use, and it's just 4 or 5 lines every day, but it lasts for 10 years. And it's just an everyday thing. And it's wonderful because it's got all these different things you can include. We love it. We love it. We love it. We add our little firsts. And if you want to write more, you can go to the end. But this really does keep us balanced. And simply because we can look back and see what we've learned and how we've grown. So wanted to just mention that to you. I will be mentioning it later when we're talking about a certain subject. Anyway, moving on to art balance. So let's take a look at this photo of these rocks. Now, if you notice, these rocks are, everything's balanced, but the rocks are not all the same size. Now, I just want you to keep that in mind as we move on, because we're going to be talking about that. Not everything is the same size. Now, look at this second picture. Boy, what a balancing act, isn't this? But again, not everything is the same size. So most think that with balance, all things must be equal. And that is simply not the case. So you think in life, you have to have this balancing beam, and both things on each side in life physically have to be equal, and that is simply not the case. So let's continue. What does balance mean? It is simply a distribution of weight. That is what balance is, a distribution of weight. Not equal, a distribution of weight. So a distribution. So that doesn't mean that all things on each side have to be the same size. Now, 3D physically, of course, we balance, we balance, we balance. But here, because we're talking about a canvas, now we're looking at something that is 2D. So we have to take the 3D world and move it to 2D. So that's a little bit different here. Now we have to create a visual pleasure for those that are looking at our art and find some kind of balance in our art, so that when they look at it, they don't go, what? And take a look at this. It's right down here in my hallway. I kind of skewed the pictures. Now, when you see something like this, don't you go, what? That's just all wrong. And you want to fix it, right? Well, do you want somebody to look at your art and look at it and go, something's just not right? No, that's what you don't want with your art. So you want to create a balance so that when someone looks at your art, even if you're trying to make people uncomfortable, or if you're trying to push people to the edge, they don't look at it and go, something is just not right. So how do we do that? We create a balance. Now, let's look at what you get when you create balance and how to get it. So what you get with balance, now we still are talking about creating balance on a canvas, but this also applies to life. I mean, beautifully, all of these things still apply. So what you get when you create balance on your canvas is you get harmony on your canvas. You get sort of a rhythm and stability and unity. You can create an emotion. So what kind of emotion are you trying to create? A calm, a peace, excitement, an edge. And, it brings your canvas to life when you have a balance about it. So all of these things you get when you create balance. Now, how do we get it? Well, how we get balance to create a visual stability on your canvas is we use form. Of course, we use different shapes to create a balance on our canvas. We also use texture. Yes, of course. We use colors. We use lines. Yes. But we also use something that is very, very important. The most important thing, the allocation of weight. How we allocate weight on our canvas is also vitally important to balance, of course. So how we place value, how we allocate the weight of different things on our canvas is incredibly important. But then once we allocate this weight, all of these things come into play as well. The lines, the colors, the texture, the form, the space even. The space even, as we'll see in Piet Mondrian's piece a little bit later. Oh my goodness, the space is amazing how you can use it. So creating visual stability and how you allocate that weight. So let's talk a little bit about allocating the weight now. Okay, so now if I were to draw or paint this picture, paint this, and I were to call it two trees. We're talking about an allocation of weight here. Now on a canvas, and I've painted this woman, let's say it's me, big nose, and I were to call it two trees. What is the first thing you would notice? You would notice the big schnoz, right? You wouldn't notice the two trees. So we're talking about allocating the weight properly in order to have that thing that you value, so we're talking about value now, be the most important thing. So how does that work in life too? Those things that you value that are the most important should hold a little bit more weight. So if I want to call this two trees, then I should downplay this nose a little bit more and bring the trees into focus a little bit more. Or at least I should choose a different way to, I should choose a symmetrical, asymmetrical, there's radical, there's different kinds of balance that you can choose to downplay this so that the trees can be more in the forefront. We're going to be talking about the different types of balance. There are so many, but we're going to be talking about 4 of those today. And so different types of balance can cause this to not be so heavy. Now, let's talk about life a little bit here. So this is you in the center. So how can you allocate things? Sometimes you allocate things and they're so big and they're so heavy. Making dinner, housework, kids, work, taking a shower, doing dishes, grocery shopping, calling your family. They all seem so big and they seem so heavy. And you have to learn how to allocate things. What is most important? And we'll be talking a little bit more about that at the end, but sometimes it is important to pick and choose what is most important. So we're going to be talking again about the 4 types of artistic balance, and I'm so excited about this because I've got some great art to show you. Okay, here we are now. We are talking about the first one, which is very exciting, which is symmetrical. Symmetrical. We have symmetrical, which has a center axis. It can run right down the center of your canvas. Now, sometimes it can be this way. If your canvas runs this way, run right down the center. And so it's usually formulaic, that's a word I can get out, formulaic. So your eyes are generally focused right on the center first. And things on the outside are generally pretty much the same. Now there's differences on the outsides, but they're usually slight. So let's take a look at a couple of pictures here. Let's look at the butterfly. Now the butterfly, where does your eye go first? Right to the center of the butterfly. But then you start to look at the wings, which are mostly identical. Now, remember in school when you used to hold a mirror up to your face and you'd see this side of your face and the other side of your face in the mirror? Now, if you really look, both sides of your face are mostly identical, but you see slight differences in this side and this side. But when you hold a mirror up, they're pretty identical. But in symmetrical, now they're mostly identical, but there are, again, slight changes. Let's look at this picture now. We are looking at a religious photo, and we've got this poor little lamb right here in the center who's obviously going to be, sacrificed here. But where does the eye, they want the eye to draw to the center first. But we've got all of these little things going on the outside. This is and so your eye is drawn to the center of the sheep, and then you can look at all of the things going on the outside. But this is a perfect example of symmetry. What else is a perfect example but Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper? Of course, another religious photo, but a perfect example of where Leonardo wanted you to look right to the center and to the vision where he wanted you to look, and that is to Jesus Christ right in the center. But you've got all of these other things going on the outside. You've got all of his disciples doing their thing, similar but different. So that's what symmetrical is. So you've got a central focus, you've got form and texture and color, and allocation of weight is usually the same with symmetrical art. Now, number 2, we have asymmetrical, which is my favorite. I usually do a lot of asymmetrical work, and I'm very excited about this because asymmetrical work is mostly, like I said, what I do. So you've still have that central axis. You can either go down or you can go horizontal. But the great thing about asymmetrical is you have more expression, you can get more imaginative, and there's more freedom. And the reason is because you're not stuck to this pattern on both sides. You can have a pattern, but then you can have a lot more movement, and you can move around, you can play with darks and lights and open spaces, and you can really play with that allocation of weight. And yet you can still have that central focus. So let's look at this example here. It's a perfect example, actually, of a man on horseback crossing a bridge. So listen to the title, Man on Horseback Crossing a Bridge. But what is the central focus? What do you see first? You see the tree down the center. Now, is that really the focus? No. But still, it's not really that thing that is so focused that it draws your attention away from what's happening at the top. So once you see that tree, then your eye is drawn up over to the left, and you see that man on the bridge, crossing the bridge, and then your eyes swoops down, and over to the bottom. And then you see those people down on the bottom. And that I don't know if it's a little boy or girl. I think he or she is riding a dog. I don't know, but your eye moves because there's space. There's an allocation. There's a weight on both sides, and in the center there's space. You notice the colors, how they're all very, very balanced. And I love that painting. It's just wonderful, and how he plays with it. So then we have something very different, very abstract. We have Piet Mondrian's. We have his composition too in red, blue, and yellow. Now, at first I didn't get Piet Mondrian's art, but then I grew such an appreciation for it. But here we have a horizontal central focus. And then we have all of these colors and open spaces. So you see that central line, and then your eye gets to travel to all of these open spaces and all of these balanced colors. And so it's just beautiful. And so that is asymmetrical, because, and that's playful, because you have all of those open spaces, but there's a horizontal line in the center. Now, I want to share something with you, but I want you to see and know that I'm going to have my husband flash, incomplete. I'm going to share one of my paintings with you that I'm working on currently, because I'm very, very excited about it. And I'm going to bring this back in just a second. But I'm very excited about this. But again, this is incomplete. But this is actually a perfect example of an asymmetrical painting, because this is called Woman Growing Old. And I've been sharing kind of my updates on how this has been progressing on my Life Creates Art on Facebook. So if you haven't liked that page, go ahead and like it. But Woman Growing Old is not done. It's actually a long way from being done. But what I want is, I want the central focus. So I want your eye to look here first, because I have this young woman here, and her face is young, and then this old woman. So that's the attention that I want first. But then I want your eye to come down to her hair, and then to notice her young hand, and then to notice with line and color. I want you to come up and see her hand rigid, shooting up, and it's old now. And that's how you use line. And this is how you use colors, by sort of creating a sameness in the colors. And then there's texture by having the lines here of her hair. Those are how you draw interest in your paintings. And so these are all very, very on purpose, these things. Just like Piet Mondrian's. All of those things are very, very on purpose. So this is asymmetrical, very on purpose. You're drawn here to the center, but you can play. There's a space here that draws attention to the little hairs that grow on women's chins when they get older, and everything is very on purpose. So there's space, there's expression, and imagination. So now again, we see that with symmetry, things are usually very balanced here. With asymmetric, things don't always have to be balanced. So now we're going to move on to a different one. We're going to move on to radical, and let's take a look at that. So now we're looking at radical. Now, how radical is different is it has a center axis. I mean, we're talking about symmetrical and asymmetrical had a center line and sometimes a horizontal line, but radical has just a center line of access, and then it shoots off in all directions, kind of like the sun. Now, in life, don't you imagine how we have us in the center, and we're sort of got all things in all directions shooting off into all directions of our life, and we've got kids and family and husband and all these things going on, and we feel a little bit discombobulated sometimes. But the great thing about radical on 2D is that it often can be very, very calming, and it's beautiful. So let's take a look at something that is very radical. And I think this is actually a photograph, but it's got this center axis, and it's just a thing of beauty. And then we look at something else. Look at this mandala. It's got a center axis. I'm going to be talking about mandalas next week and how they benefit you. And mandalas are radical. They have a center axis, and they work as rays of sun from the outside. They shoot off from the outside, but they can also be very calming. So again, center of our canvas, that's where the center of attention is on your canvas, and then it shoots off, your attention shoots off to the outside. That is radical. And one step at a time with mandalas, and we'll be talking about that next week. So let's move on now to no balance. Okay, so let's talk about no balance. How do we feel when we have no balance in our life? We feel terrible, but on a canvas, wow, it can be absolutely incredible and emotional and beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Let's look at this painting here with this couple in this French cafe, and they're sitting there. I mean, it just draws such incredible emotion. These two, they look so pained and sad, and it's off to the side, of course, but what do you notice? You notice their pain, and it's just incredibly emotional. You notice the shadows on the back wall, and you notice the sadness in their faces, and the little bottle sitting on the table that's now empty. You notice how her feet are arranged on the floor. There's things about it that you notice that if that were just right in the center of the canvas, that maybe you wouldn't notice that so much. And so with that man off to the side, you wonder, it gives you a little bit of a mystery about what's going on off the canvas. Like there's another world off the canvas. So it makes you curious. You almost want to take a look and see who's on the other side of the canvas. So there's mystery and emotion. So when it comes to 2D, no balance can sometimes, if you do it right, can sometimes bring such beautiful emotion. But in life, when you have no balance, you feel kind of lost. Now, I am going to do a video simply about life and about balance, because I feel this is a very important subject. So it won't be about art. It will simply be about how to find balance in your life. And we'll be talking about no balance, but when you feel lost. However, I want to talk to you because it's a very bold statement on your canvas, but in life, balance is not no balance is not our friend. But you can find balance if you don't give up. And so these are the four things to how to find balance. And I am going to just take another minute to let you know about our journal. And I hope you can get it because it will help you find balance. I hope you have enjoyed this. So there's Symmetrical, which is very formulated. There is Asymmetrical, which gives you better freedom and expression and imaginative freedom. There is Radical, and there is No Balance. There are a lot more forms of balance, but I have just covered for today. So I hope this has helped you. Now I want to take just 1 minute, and I hope I can time myself, 1 minute to go over all of these forms related to life. Okay, so if you're sticking with me, stay with me. I'm going to take symmetrical first and relate it to life. So let's take symmetrical. So we're talking about a center line, and same on both sides. So center first. So when you take the center first, you have to take yourself first, because you cannot be there for others if you're not there for yourself. Because if you're not strong in yourself, then you can't be strong for other people. You can't be. You have to take time for yourself. Schedule time for yourself. It's so important to take that center and schedule time for yourself. It's okay. It's okay to be selfish and take a few minutes for yourself to build yourself up. So symmetrical, the art and the self. So asymmetrical, more expression, that imaginative freedom. Learn to say no. Be more expressive. Allocate that weight. Don't forget to allocate that weight. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's going to be okay to allocate that weight. Take the small things and the big things and allocate it properly. Now, radical, we have that center axis that spreads out like the sun, all directions like the sun. Take your journal, quiet time, again, write lists, do things for yourself so that you can bring yourself into that center axis and you can figure out what is most important. And again, no balance. In art, it can be beautiful, but not in life. Take moments to learn. Now remember, we can learn from those difficult moments and turn them into beauty. So no balance is difficult, but we can turn difficult moments into beautiful moments. Thank you for sticking with me, and I appreciate you and love you so much. Life creates art, and art can create life. And I thank you for being with me. I love you all. Don't forget to go down and order this journal. It's wonderful and it's beautiful. And you all are amazing. Subscribe, like and subscribe. I want to hear from you. This is Shelly signing out. I love you. Bye.